So you're a researcher?
Yes, I mean,
And you work as well?
I did a higher degree, doctorate in medicine, and one of the things I suppose is that there are probably not enough general practitioners do higher degrees, and it's one thing I always wanted to do, and I suppose I had, the basic approach to it from having done research for a master's in the past. I had that ability, like, to see how it might work better. So I took a topic, and I did my master's, my doctorate in medicine on that, and so then when Notre Dame in Freemantle, the University of Australia, Notre Dame, Australia, their first school that they established in Australia was in Freemantle. They've since had school in Sydney, but the School of Medicine that they got, that was the first school that any of the universities of Notre Dame worldwide had a medical school. So when it was established, I was asked, would I be interested in, looking after the research part of the School of Medicine for the general practice. So I took on that role, and initially, on a it's always been a part-time basis, but for about 2 days a week. So I've been doing that now, and that has progressed very well. And in the last 4 or 5 years, we were lucky enough to get one of the peak body research grants from the National Health and Medical Research Body, and with government support, and it was a partnership grant, even with some industry as well coming into it. And it was one of the biggest grants that they ever got, and it was into, basically the study was to improve the detection and management of the hereditary form of high cholesterol, familial hypercholesterolemia. So it's not just high cholesterol, but it's the familial form, to improve that in general practice.
That means it runs in families.
Yes, it's hereditary. You're born with it, so it's not a question of diet only. It's not that. It's just your the parts of your liver cells that get rid of the bad cholesterol are not working. So really, it's the receptors are non-functioning. So unless you treat it appropriately, you will end up, by the time you're 10 years old, you'll have 10 years of high circulating cholesterol in your bloodstream, and by the time you get to 40, it'll be 40 years old. So at that stage, you're starting to lay down plaques.
At 10 years, would you see any changes?
Minimal. You probably would if you were doing ultrasound pictures of some of the intima of the arteries, but really after about 20, 30, 40 years, definitely, if the levels are high enough. And then, like, the sad thing about it, unrecognized, untreated, the first event might be a calamitous one where you get sudden death or a major heart attack at age 40 or 50. And half the men get that or die at that age. And the women are protected for about another 10 years, but I mean, after 60 they catch up very quickly. But the good thing about it is that with treatment, and the treatment is mainly drug treatment and mainly statins, and with treatment you can promise people they'll live a normal lifespan, provided they adhere to it. But that is a difficult thing in itself.
And were many of the sudden deaths familial?
Yes, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I know you're saying that.
About half the ones who, any person presenting with a very high cholesterol level, and there's a history of sudden death in their family, they deserve to be looked at as potential carriers of that gene, the defective gene.
And is that just cholesterol testing?
Well, that's one of the testing, is the cholesterol testing, because really, like, if your LDL cholesterol, which is the lower density lipoprotein cholesterol, if that's above, say, 5, or especially if it's above 6.5, or even higher, or if the total cholesterol is above 7.5, it should be sending off alarm signals for you that these guys could be at risk. And especially if there's a strong family history of a father, a mother, grandfather, uncles or aunts, somebody has had a heart attack in their 40s or 50s, these guys should be investigated.
And was that a big project? Had you many people involved in it?
Well, yes, we had 15 practices around Australia. We had 3 up in Mackay in Queensland, far north Queensland. We had 3 in Sydney, 1 in Tweed Heads, which is up near Brisbane. We had 5 in Western Australia, which I was looking after. We had 1 over in Geelong and 2 in Tasmania, so we had 15 altogether. And it was basically my job to try and G them up, keep them going at it, apply a model of care that we had developed, and apply that and follow them up. So it was involved, to do it, like, we developed a data extraction tool called Tarbex that was able to really examine the records of, using an algorithm that was built into it, based on the fact that you would need to have your cholesterol level known. is look at your family history, your personal history of early heart disease, and whether you were taking a statin or other lipid-lowering treatment. So they're the major variables in the algorithm. So they put that into the thing, and it's all automatic, and it could do 20,000 patients in 2 minutes, and it'll pick out the ones above a certain level, and they calculate what's called a Dutch lipid score that gives a rating for each of those components of it, like your level of your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol, LDL-C, your personal or family history, or if you've had an event before.
And who developed the software for that?
Well, we did.
You did?
Yeah, I mean, it was my probably input on the clinical side, and a biostatistician person who knew how to put the stuff together. And once we had the crude model done, we did the study on it, and then we submitted it to the outcome to it, like to Heart Journal, and they, surprise, came back to us and said, oh, we like this. And they published it almost straight away. So after we had that done, we took it to one of the major software providers, and they refined it to make it work less clunkily, more seamlessly, and we're able to use it now. So it's one of 3 major ones in the world at the moment.
Yeah, we're going to say it has been rolled out nationwide in Australia now. Yes.
Yeah, it is available to those who use that software, but there's always a little bit of competition between software providers, so they don't all provide it.
And has it had much of an effect on reducing the amount of deaths?
Well, the numbers we were doing, the study we were doing were small numbers. We looked across the 15 practices. We looked at something like about 240,000 patients. And I think out of those, we picked out about 1,840 from memory who had it. And we looked at them then and kept breaking it down, stricter criteria. You do a clinical review just to make sure that the details are correct, that you're not missing, bring them back in, check it that there isn't any more family history there to make them more definite. And basically we used a phenotype based on their level of cholesterol, their family history, their personal history, and what their levels were at and how they're responding. So that basically gave us the thing, and we ended up with, I think, 147 patients with it, and we followed them up for 12 months. But one of the big troubles we have with a condition like this is, and especially if they're younger patients, is to maintain adherence to the treatment. We can, and a lot of them, even like in the biggest studies in Europe, there were less than 50% on it, and we found that we had just something over 50%, 77 I think out of 147 who finished out all the tests of the thing. And we were able to show that there was a significant improvement, and that most of those who followed the advice got to the targets. So that we submitted that to Heart Journal, and they published that. So that was the first time that it showed that a general practice approach using a model of care from general practice could get the target. And they gave us an editorial on it as well, which was really it was really very welcome, because it was the first time it was shown that it could work.
Good.
But now it's like, how do you apply this worldwide, and how do you improve it? Because it's not just diagnosing the one person in 250 who has this condition in the community. The real benefit is, because it's hereditary, is that one of the parents has to have it. So you need to look then at the first degree relatives and go back and check those, because if they've got a 50% likelihood of having it, they're the ones. And the other way that's going to make a huge difference is that there is a genetic test you can do, and applying that test will almost guarantee that there will be a 50% return on it once you get genetic positive. So they won the Goldstein and Brown won the Nobel Prize for Medicine and Physiology in this in 1985, so it's relatively new information. But how do you apply it? It's in all Western countries, it's about 1 in 250. But it's not just the 1 in 250, it's about the 50% of the first degree relatives that have it as well, that they're the ones, and especially the big gaps are in children not being diagnosed early, so you can treat them before they get these plaques, and in general practice where people are not aware about it.
Can you ever see the day when you'll be able to genetically engineer it?
Oh no, you won't. It's autosomal dominant. Unless you stop them breathing, you won't be able to control it. And the other thing is about if 2 autosomal dominants marry or have children together, and 25% of them will have homozygous. They'll have a double exhibition of the thing, and one of them won't have it, but the others will have heterozygous. And the homozygous ones, they don't survive beyond teenage years unless they're very aggressively treated, because they have a terrible disease. That's rare. They thought it was about 1 in 5.5 million, but now it's thought to be about 1 in 300,000.
And will the statins push down the cholesterol enough to protect you.
In most cases it will, but there are newer drugs coming on like ezetimibe, but also the PCSK9 inhibitors, these monoclonal antibodies. Some of these are very, very effective. And there's a newer small interfering mRNA inclisiran has come out now with Novartis. That one is really very effective as well. These are ones, and they're probably most effective for those who are resistant to effective treatment with statins, or you don't get compliance, or you're getting side effects. And side effects happen, but they're rare. But those newer drugs are very powerful. They give about 60 to 75% control of it. They're very powerful.
Okay. So all this research, you're a professor now?
Well, I have been.
Did it come out of that? It didn't come out of that. No,
no. I mean, I had
professor before
probably,
that.
it evolved over the last 17 years. I'm not sure how long I have it now. It's probably best part of 10 years. But yeah, it's you take these things.
Yeah, but it's a prestigious thing to get a professorship. It's not every fellow in the street has a professorship, as I say.
Yeah, but a lot of people probably might be interested in doing it as well. I mean, a lot of people certainly they make more money if they stay in clinical medicine rather than doing academic medicine.
Well, yeah, I believe that. I've heard that. Yeah.
But I mean, it's an intellectual challenge, and I think at the end of your days, you feel you like to put something back. And I don't regret doing it. I love doing it. I mean, it's like practicing medicine. You either love it or you don't. I'm delighted I took that up as my career.
So as well as medicine, you had a good sporting career, we call it, yeah.
I mean, I don't think I was a top class athlete, but I did play, getting football. I played every sport bar hurling, I think.
This series of interviews is not about top class, it's about bottom class or middle class or any class.
Ordinary guys.
Depending on who I'm talking to, ordinary guys. Yeah. So,
but yeah, I think my body physique and that was probably more suited to rugby. And I liked playing rugby, and I learned it when I was, the skill of it about 13 to 17 when I was younger. So that was good. But I enjoyed. One of my troubles was I played Gaelic football like I was playing rugby as well. I mean, I think I was a lot better defender than I was an attacker, and it's only later in my life I realised that. Because
was the ban gone in your time? It was.
Oh well, it was. I was one of these guys that totally ignored the ban.
Was it in vogue in your time?
It was there.
Yeah, it was there. Yes. So I remember when it went.
Yeah,
I got
very archaic.
Yeah, I got expelled from the GA when I was 12 because I went to a rugby school. No, I have no hang-ups about that. That's the way it was, and that's what it was like,
But they could have been doing something better at their time, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, that was the way it was, But tell me this now, which was your best sport? Which was your favourite sport?
I mean, I was probably best at rugby. I mean, I always
you played for college. You played for UCG.
Yeah, I played minor rugby for Mayo. I played for UCG and senior rugby for most of my career. I was minor captain. The year after, Seamus Dennison was the first year I was there and played with him. And then I was young enough to be minor captain the second year. And then I was got a junior team and senior team after that. And then I played with Galwegians. And then I played with Connacht, I think, in I think it was 76 I played with Connacht.
Did you manage to collect a few trophies along the way, did you?
Yes, well, we won in my year we won the minor cup and the minor league, and we won the minor league the year before that we won junior cup, and we won 2 junior cups and won 2 senior cups with one senior league with UCG and won 2 senior cups with Galwegians. Unfortunately, I never won a senior cup with UCG, which was always.
And who was on the team with you in Galwegians? I actually played for Galwegians for a year myself, yeah.
Who was playing then? Billy Quinn was playing that time. John Connolly, Mick Kesseley.
Yeah. I remember all these guys, yeah.
But in college, in my first year there, I remember training even with Mick Malloy, who was an intern, and then playing guys with Seamus Dennison, obviously, played for Ireland. Kieran Fitzgerald then came in. Jerry McLaughlin. Yeah. Jerry McLaughlin played with us the time that UCG beat Westport in the junior final in 1973 in the sports ground.
I wasn't on it.
I think you were.
I was 75. I was on a few teams actually, but we got beaten a lot. A lot of finals, but could never get over them.
But they were the main ones that played in my time. Hugh Maguire got a B cap, and But
who was the manager at the end? Wasn't Lex Ryan? Was that
Lex was there. Yes,
right. He was a great.
Oh, he was.
He was a great coach.
He was very. He was really very proud of me. Like I think in Halloween in 1969, when we were playing a junior, a minor league match, and we were playing Corinthians up in Fahey's Field. And what I didn't realise is that I'd selected a 15 to play that way against Corinthians, and I think they had about 35 players turned up. Like, there was only 15 on the field. 10 of ours turned up, but we decided we'd play our 10 against them, and we beat them 10-6.
And how did you manage that now? How did you manoeuvre that?
Lex was shaking his head like he was giving out to me earlier on, but he didn't say anything afterwards. He was smiling at me.
Yeah. But how did 10 manage to beat 15? Did you have strategy, or did you?
Just all ad hockery, and we played 5 backs, 5 forwards, and if you were playing in the centre, you were tackling all the way out along the line.
Oh, that was a great achievement, wasn't it? Yeah. So when you look back on your career now so far, and you have a few years left yet, and have you enjoyed it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
What the biggest changes you've seen now in medicine and all that? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's. I think certainly in heart management, heart disease management, some of the drugs is just brilliant. I mean, I think as well the standard has probably improved. I mean, I think the colleges of GPs have made a huge difference as well with the training, and I see that like worldwide, like in countries who have. I mean, countries with the best primary healthcare services have the best health services in the world. But I mean, governments often don't realise that, because the political, push generally comes from specialists and hospitals, because it's always on the news, like, ambulances ramping up or too many in emergencies. But basically, if some of the services were put into community care and primary care, a lot of that services could be taken out of hospitals, because hospital medicine is very dear medicine.
Well, it's awfully expensive, yeah. There's a great scope to bring it. It was all done in medicine, in general practice, back in the 50s and 60s, and
You're right.
there was all the chronic disease all handled in general practice.
Right.
And then we got specialists coming in and took it over, really, and took it away from them and whatever, Well, that's life, that's the way it goes, isn't it?
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
But thank you very much.